The Israeli Air Forces controls the skies over Tehran. This changes the entire campaign. We are on the path to achieving our two objectives: eliminating the nuclear threat and eliminating the missile threat. When we control the skies over Tehran, we strike those targets, regime targets, unlike the criminal Iranian regime that targets our civilians.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu speaking at an airbase this morning. The IDF says it destroyed more than 20 surface-to-surface missiles in an overnight strike. It says a third of the regime's missile launchers have now been dismantled. A long line of cars seen leaving Tehran as the fighting intensifies. You can see that there. And this all comes as Israel looks to cripple the regime's nuclear program, which it calls an existential threat. Israeli President Isaac Herzog joins us from Jerusalem. There is a slight delay, so bear with us. And, sir, thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Prime Minister Netanyahu says that you're close to achieving the two objectives in this mission. Do you need American military support in order to complete those objectives?
So thank you, Dana, and thank you, Bill, from Jerusalem. I'm calling you and speaking to you. And I believe that, your viewers and you know that Israel is the closest ally of the United States of America, and America is the closest ally of the State of Israel, and we share joint national security interests on many fields. But the American administration will take its decisions, and Israel will take its decisions. We had no choice. We had a clear and imminent threat on an Iranian nuclear program that has rushed to the bomb. In recent months, broke almost into the bomb by both armament and enrichment. And as President Donald Trump himself reiterated time and again that Iran must not have the bomb and must not have this capability, we saw that whilst they were negotiating, they also were doing undercover operations to get to the bomb. And that is why we took this decision following a historic change of Israeli governments who've taken this decision in the past to make sure that none of our enemies have the bomb.
Mr. President, during this war, can Iran go nuclear? Can they fuel a bomb amidst this war on day 4 already?
As far as I know, I don't think it's feasible. I think that would be a very dangerous development. We are trying with all our might and capabilities and our heroic fighters and pilots to make sure that they don't get there, but rather that we delay, postpone, undermine their capability of getting to the bomb. We've carried out a massive operation. This operation strengthens the security and well-being of the free world, not only Israel. This operation prevents Iran from being on the doorstep of Europe with a huge nuclear program. And let's understand, we know for 80 years the world has decided and made clear that nukes are the most dangerous of all, and has decided and made clear for decades already that Iran must not have a nuclear capability. And even recently, just a few days ago, the International Atomic Agency in Vienna made clear in a decision of its Board of Governors, a historic, unprecedented decision, that Iran is violating all its agreements with the international community in this respect. That is why we had to take this operation. We did not seek that war. We never want this war. But unfortunately, since October 7th, we've been dealing with an empire of evil, all orchestrated from Tehran.
The proxies of Iran have been degraded, mostly thanks to the work of Israel, Hezbollah, Hamas. And I'm curious if you have any update on the discussions about the hostages who are still being held in Gaza.
So, we have 53 hostages, and I'm grateful to President Trump and his administration for working tirelessly to get them out of Gaza, including, of course, our people, our negotiating teams. We've accepted all offers of the mediators in the last few months. We said yes, and Hamas said no. So we're operating in Gaza to bring them back home. But the lesson of Gaza is a lesson to the entire free world, which is convening in Canada today at the G7 summit. Let's understand, if you enable such an enemy to raise its had and developed such an infrastructure for decades. Then you wake up one morning and you see that the jihadist ideology of trying to reign over the Middle East, to be its ruler, is moving forward. And what we are doing right now is we are trying to move away and enable other peace forces, other nations in the region, together with Israel, to offer a better hope. I sincerely want our Palestinian neighbors to have a better life. I sincerely want our Arab neighbors to have a better life. But we in Israel are bombarded day in, day out by Iranian missiles, and before that by Houthi Yemenite missiles, and before that with Hezbollah missiles, and before that Hamas missiles. It's all started in Tehran. It's all financed by Tehran. It's all armed by Tehran. And we have to understand this is a clear threat to world stability and Middle East stability.
Sir, I don't know what the latest numbers are. The numbers I have is 300 ballistic missiles approximately fired toward Israel, of which many have been intercepted, but others have gotten through and caused casualties on the ground there. Perhaps the Iranians have 1,000 more. Maybe the number's higher. I do not know. But eventually, Iran runs out of ballistic missiles. Israel is not going to occupy the country of Iran. What happens when they reach the end of the line of the ballistic missile threat to Israel?
So as Prime Minister Netanyahu said today, our pilots are flying all over Iran. Indeed, these missiles are machines to kill citizens. I mean, they're like spraying Israel with missiles every night in order to harass Israelis. Unfortunately, innocent lives were taken, innocent Israelis killed in their bedrooms, in their shelters, from toddlers to old age. 94-year-old Holocaust survivor today. So we have to understand that this is a war which we are trying to eradicate a threat. They are trying to kill civilians. And all I say is to the world, if you want to de-escalate, get the goddamn nukes out of Tehran's hands and bring a new change, bring a new direction, bring a different direction for the day after. We should think about the day after. And I am confident and I trust the administration, the U.S. administration, for moving forward with plans. But for that, we all have to show unanimity in our cause and objective to make sure that Iran does not have nuclear weapons.
President Trump shares that, and he said this yesterday at the White House.
Mr. President, can you give us a sense of what you're doing to try to de-escalate the situation between Iran and Israel?
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
Given the reality on the ground right now and in the air, as you just said, what do you think the chances of a deal are for Iran at this point?
Look, it's a psychological and physical and emotional challenge. But we're a very strong and resilient nation, and we've shown immense capabilities. And that is why, at the end, the Iranians will have to understand that they cannot go through terror again. They cannot spread havoc and terror for decades in the Middle East. They cannot radicalize nations. They cannot plant terror cells all over the world. And they cannot go nuclear. And I hope that the Iranian people will wake up, because they are coerced by a terrible regime. And I hope they will raise their voices clear and loud. So I think now, when the G7 summit is convening in Canada, it should be top priority on two things. No way Iran going nuclear. Secondly, bring back our hostages as soon as possible. I believe that bringing the hostages back home will be the key to the door to opening a different horizon in our region. That is what I told world leaders. You want to change reality everywhere, also in Gaza. We want to. But for that, bring our hostages and bring a path forward.
Mr. President, one last question here. The Ayatollah is in charge of the Iranian country and the Iranian people now. Is there a back channel of communications by which Israel can communicate effectively with the Iranian leadership now?
I don't know. You know, we are dealing with very cruel people who've spread terror. So I don't know if there's any way of a dialogue, but you know that there are countries that are willing to speak to the Iranian leadership on find a way and a path forward. We never had war with the Iranian people. On the contrary, we always had great respect for them. They're a huge people. They're a nation with great history. Many Jews came from Iran. You want to know something which is really inquisitive for me in terms of how I see facts. Yesterday I visited Rishon LeZion, a beautiful city in the heart of Israel which was bombarded by missiles, and I visited a family of 3 generations who were saved by miracle from the missile that totally eradicated their home. They came from Isfahan. They're Jews who came from Isfahan originally, from Iran. So I think, you know, at the end, we should all live in peace in this region. But for that, you have to stop an empire of evil, because that's what they do all day long. They take the people's money and spend it on killing people all over the region. Why would a small, tiny tribe like the Houthis in Yemen, 50,000 people, have ballistic missiles, have cruise missiles? They've been fed up and filled up with ammunition of empires, of big countries. That means that the world has to rise up and say to the Iranians, no more.
Sir, thank you for your time. The President of Israel, live in Jerusalem, where the war rages.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Pleasure.
sir.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.